be cognizant of everybody's time. So I'm Renee Hayter. I'm the Deputy Director of Sustainable Jersey, and I oversee, uh, as one of my duties, the Sustainable Jersey for Schools program. And Rosalie, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Rosalie Morillo. I am the program manager one of the program managers at Sustainable Jersey. My main focus is content, school content, and digital schools and special projects.
Great. And so this is the fourth year that we've been doing the climate challenge. And so we've learned a lot over the 4 years. And we're going to share some of kind of those insights with you tonight as we go through the slides. But as I said, this should just be like a conversation, and stop us at any time and ask questions. And if are debating about something like the question that Joy just asked, please don't be shy and just ask us, and we'll give you an answer, answer your questions to the best of our ability. So we can move on to the next slide. So overall, the objectives of the climate challenge is for students to get a sense of agency and feel like there are things that they can do to address climate change, and it's not all just doom and gloom, that they can be empowered to make a difference. And so what we want them to do is complete a specific project, something that has a tangible outcome related to a cause or impact of climate change. And I'll go into that in a little bit more detail. But again, the scope of the project, depending on what the grade level of the team, will vary, and it could be as simple as an outreach campaign in their school, or it could be a multifaceted project depending on what the people that are involved in the project. So sometimes simple projects were winners because it was clear the connection between climate change and what their project was doing, and their video was creative and clear. So it doesn't have to be a very complicated project, but it has to have show some tangible uh, outcome. Like, even if the outcome is, in some cases, it was the students developing a proposal to do a climate action plan for the district, and they presented that to the Board of Education. So it doesn't have to be a grand project, but something that is thoughtful and kind of tries to advance something to the next step. And a key theme that we're going to be saying repeatedly during this webinar is to really keep students focused on what the connection is to climate change, how their project is connected to climate change. And then for the video story, we want the video component, we really want them to kind of tell a story about kind of what they did, when they did it, how they did it, and why, like making it very personal to them, like why were they motivated to do this project, and how they felt about doing it, and what they felt about the outcome of it, and what their hope is for the future, type of stuff. The next slide. So again, the biggest thing I would reiterate with students is making clear connections to what they're doing and climate change. So there's two kind of categories of projects they can do. One is looking at the human activity that causes climate change, which we know is the increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, and reducing projects that are intended to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases are considered mitigation projects, because they're kind of trying to lessen the impact of human activity. And then on the other end, because of the increased concentrations of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, the climate is changing, and the result of those changes has negative impacts like flooding, like droughts. So things that they can do to address the negative impacts are called adaptation. So they're kind of trying to address what the negative impacts with some kinds of interventions, like I said, flooding or tree planting, things like that. So that's when you're working with your students, just kind of hone in on them making a clear connection. And we'll give some examples in the next slide. Um, we had, like in previous years, we've had submissions that may talk about like reducing plastics. That was a popular one. But some of the submissions really focused on the pollution aspect of reducing plastics, but not really a direct connection to climate change. So if your students are doing projects like relative to recycling or reducing plastics and stuff, you need to talk about how the production of the plastics contributes to climate change. That's one angle. And then the other angle is how the garbage from, single-use plastics. Another angle is how it it becomes garbage and it clogs uh, storm drains, which makes flooding problems more difficult. So like a project that some students could do is doing a cleaning of the drains in their neighborhoods to get the garbage out. So when it rains, the garbage can flow through the sewers. Not the garbage, the flood water can flow through the storm drains and then reduce the impacts of flooding. And so whatever angle they're taking, it should address, like we said, a cause of human activity and or addressing the impacts of it. So these are just some projects that kind of relate to the human activity causes and things that students can do. Um, are any of your students' projects kind of involved in this area? Joy, you want to share your idea, what your students are working on?
So it's interesting because we're looking at movement and how people move, like climate refugees, and when their movement or when they move, how languages get lost. So it's really interesting because it sort of combines a lot of the climate change impact stuff. Um, so yeah, I'm just texting Mark right now. I'm like, no. So, but that's one. And then the at the middle school level, we're looking at food and food waste and
Mhm.
various ways that people can become aware of the food system and using every part of the food system, including packaging, to revitalize and respond to climate or as climate action. So
Right. And so if you're dealing with food waste, then the connection to climate change, go back to the previous slide, is mitigation, right? Because they're reducing the waste that goes into the landfills. And when they're in landfills, they're emitting, when it's decomposing, it's causing methane gas to be released into the atmosphere. So making those kind of clear connections of what the impact of their project is on either mitigating the greenhouse gas emissions or adapting or addressing the impacts of the climate change caused by the greenhouse gases. Anybody else want to share what their project is?
Um, this is Rifat Kokar. For some reason, my video is not showing. I don't know. Um, I just have to explain because this is the first year we are participating in a climate change project, and this is our first one. Before I got the information from you, we were already in the process of doing some climate change project only for the class and for the school science departments. So couple of students, they are working on materials that we use for the road material to making constructing the roads and buildings and construction, because we live in Jersey City and downtown area. The Ferris High School is located downtown area near Hudson River. So that lot of construction is going on. So they collect They actually went different places to take the pictures and whatever the construction is going on, and then they took the material like some kind of soil, some asphalt and concrete and rocks, whatever they found there. So they brought it in the classroom, and right now in the process of uh, they are using actually the light bulbs to give the energy and temperature. They are checking the temperature, like they have like a 6 light bulbs that 40 watt each of them. So they are working on the small things. But when I started, I gave them a couple of like 6 7 questions about weather, climate, what climate change, like a basic, because this is the first time we are doing it. So everybody, like I have 12 students, so each of them has to do the same questions before they understand the background before they choose any kind of project. So everybody is going in their own direction. So I am just helping them, but I'm just giving them a free hand. So whatever they come up with, so I help them to understand the basic concepts. So what is the difference between weather and climate, and then climate change, and then their causes, and when they are affect and impact where we live on. So I can't say like we are at the end, but it's just like a initial process. So let's see
So
where they end up.
yeah, and so that sounds like very interesting, but at some point the project needs to like come to a like some kind of action step. So maybe
Conclusion,
it's
yes, yeah,
presenting it to the Board of Ed to make better choices when
yes.
they're, looking at construction plans and stuff like that. There has to be some kind of output that,
Output for that project, yes,
yeah.
yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank
All
you.
right. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? All right, so we can move on, Rosalie. So we kind of talked about the different adaptation strategies. These are kind of common things that can be done to address the impacts of climate change, um, conserving water, installing rain barrels, protecting wetlands. Um, so there's a whole range of things, planting rain gardens to deal with flooding, doing dune plantings, improving habitats and for biodiversity, because of the changing climate, some species are being threatened. So there's a whole host of things. This is not an exhaustive list, but just again, making the connection between what they're doing and how and climate change. Next slide.
Okay. All righty. So now we're going to talk a little bit about creating your digital story. So first, what is a digital story? I'm sure we've heard about this a lot. Being in the age of technology, students are all over TikTok and Instagram doing all the reels, but the idea of a digital story is about creating a narrative that will help your audience understand what your project is, the impacts and the connections that you're making to climate change. So when developing your story, you want your students to consider that narrative that they're presenting and the audience that they're presenting to, and making sure that what they're trying to present is being clearly narrated through their digital story. All right, so then this is where we want to consider the 3 C's. So we connect on an emotional level with people and events in the story, and we want to connect them with the experience of our lives. So how are we making those connections? How are we communicating? The stories let us communicate our perspective and perception. So how are we communicating our story to the audience? And these are great kind of points to present to your students when you are in the process of developing the digital story. And stories are usually a collaborative effort of stories, characters, actions, and points of view. So having students connect to all those things when they're planning their digital story is really important. And I would really encourage that don't just give us the students their cameras or like their videos and just tell them to go, and have them actually make like shot lists and plans. And later on we'll show you our resources, and I developed some graphic organizers for students that you can provide for them when they're actually planning shot by shot. And I would just encourage them that for every shot, they'll say, this is what I want this picture to look like, and then write down what's being said, what's trying to be communicated, and like what is the purpose. Because when things are planned better, they're just going to be initiated better. So to help with that as well, we have 2 links here, and we are going to share the slides with you. That one of the links, I'm looking, I have like 3 screens. I apologize. So this link right here is a YouTube video where we're from last year. One of the professors from Rider University talks through how to craft your digital story. And then we have examples of last year's and previous finalists that have won the climate challenge, that you can use them for the different approaches that you might want to take with your submissions.
And I will just say that you know, the submissions, that we had a range of things, and so don't be intimidated by some of the ones that are more complicated, and you know, and then some of the other ones you know, could have been improved by making those stronger connections to climate change.
Mm-hmm. And so here are some other examples that you can also look at. So we have like Young Voices, we have a Green Ninja Film Festival, and these are all different types of videos that maybe you want to take a look at, and, you know, maybe for inspirations and things like that. So students should be reflecting on the following questions, and I would again really encourage you to provide these to your students. You know, why is the climate crisis an important issue for them? How is it affecting their lives? How is it affecting the community? How are they taking action? What steps are needed? And what challenges did they experience while they were doing their project? Maybe even talk about like how they, you know, approach those challenges. Like, did they manage to overcome those challenges? What did their team accomplish, and how will their actions help combat climate change? And I would say you don't have to have students directly speak into the camera and answering these like an interview questions. You can have it as a audio overview while they're, you know, doing their project. You could have maybe snippets of them like directly talking to the camera, or some of their actions can answer these questions. Like maybe like a challenge that they're experiencing, you can show them struggling with something. And so, you know, a lot of the things that we want when we tell narratives, a lot of it can be like showing and not telling, as long as it's clear enough that what's being communicated. So,
And yeah, and I was just going to share one of the examples from last year relative to kind of using you know, talking about the challenges they experienced and how they overcame them. So we had a middle school group that wanted to do a pollinator garden in their courtyard, and they went through the process of talking to the principal and got approval to do it. And then all of a sudden, when they wanted to get started on the project, they said, oh no, you can't do it because there's going to be construction materials in the courtyard. So they were like heartbroken. But then what they decided to do was, instead of doing it on school property, they created like Pollinator Gardens a box, where they kind of put together a kit for people in the community, and they gave them out at one of their events, a school event, and they gave out over 200 or so kits, and people keep on calling asking for more. So, and it kind of, the story was so cute because they kind of told the story of the ups and downs of where they got to, and how it was you know, very successful, and they were, you know, in the end very happy.
Mm-hmm. So when it comes to the video requirements, just, you know, a reminder that in order to submit your video, you have to save it in one of the following formats. And just an extra note, based off of the videos I've received in the past, please make sure that the music that you are using in the background is not copyrighted. So there is a link here that you can use where that they provide uncopyrighted music that you can use for your video. And also just be mindful of the audio sound. So sometimes we get videos that we can't hear very well, all right? And maybe the music's really loud, but the audio, like the audio of like the speech of like people speaking is very low, or vice versa. So just, you know, encourage your students to listen to their videos out loud, and I mean, in practice beforehand. And that has a lot to do with just editing, right? And just being mindful of like the audio, to having that
And,
at the appropriate levels.
right. And students, and you know, the video is a challenging part of it for some of the students, but some of them had consulted with, like, if there's a video teacher in the school to get some advice, or a friend of a friend, or their friend's father, or something like that. Like, encourage them to try to use the resources that they are available to them through school or through personal connections to kind of help solve some of the kind of technical problems that they may come across.
Mhm. Okay. All right, so some easy ways to make videos. Nowadays, there's so many different types of software out there, and students actually will surprise you about how much more they know than us when it comes to video editing. But some tips that you can create your video if your school doesn't have a video production class, or maybe the equipment, fancy equipment and things like that. Just consider using the cell phone. The way that iPhones are made, or even like Android phones, the cameras are so good, and there's actually video software already inside the cell phones. So having that, having students use their cell phones, but also if you don't have that type of equipment, maybe even creating an online Zoom meeting or Google Meet where you're just like kind of recording things that are happening, because we do understand that people have different not every school has the same type of equipment. Or just even creating a PowerPoint presentation with a narration and exporting it as a video. And you could provide pictures within the PowerPoint to kind of help describe what's going on.
Right. And you could make the video, the presentation as like a video, because with it kind of moving along.
So different video formats, there's live action, just kind of like, you know, just walking us through the actual digital story video of like the journey that your students are going through. There is also a curated list of video tutorials available, and we linked to that. Alternative formats, speed drawing, that's very popular. So you have students that are very artistic. Maybe they're drawing like the different plans that they're making and what they want to do and what they did do, and then they speed up the drawing. So there's examples of that. Any other types of drawing, whereas I guess you can also do that within a PowerPoint once they draw the picture and kind of tell the story in a drawing, in an artistic way. Animation is really cool. We actually did already get a submission, and I kind of peeked at it already, and it is a digital animation of like, I think it's about bee pollinator gardens, and then they have like an animation of like the bees and why they're important and things like that, and contributing to like climate change and like taking care of like the gardens and things like that. So so stop motion Legos, that there's also a version of that. And then, you know, there's so many different online tools that can assist with your video creation. And I'm going to share that with you also. So free video editing software, again, because we're in the age of like Reels and TikTok, Lightworks is something that is free and it's easy to use. VideoPad, iMovie, if you have an iPhone, it's already in your iPhone. Animoto for animations. And WeVideo is another version that you can use. But if you want to just use apps on the phone, CapCut, and now Canva, I just found out, actually has a video editing software. And then also many of your students probably already have TikTok, and their video software is also an editing program, is very good.
Does anybody have any questions on kind of the creating the digital story or the kind of technical questions of creating the video?
Yes, my name is Tennille Faison, and I had a question about the length of the video. I know in the directions or requirements for the video production, it states 3 minutes. Does the video have to be exactly 3 minutes, or can it be a little over if that's acceptable?
Yes, it can be over. I mean, it's 3 minutes is kind of like the target, but we've had submissions that that were less than 3 minutes. Um, I would not say to go over like 5 minutes that's getting long. So I would say like 3 minutes is the sweet spot. So a little bit less or a little bit more is fine, but not too long. Because then it just the reviewers kind of get are waiting for the end type of thing.
Right. I think it's important to also teach your students about being concise in their storytelling, right? I mean, students themselves have very short attention spans. So I think the idea was like thinking about what is the most important aspects of your project that you want to present, and really just kind of pointing those things out and having them organize it in that way. Because if things get too long, I would say less is more a lot of the time. I even say, you know, like being concise with your writing and your stories and things like that. And I think it's the same way with videos, because if they get too long, then the message kind of gets lost in the lengthiness of the video.
I
But
have a
again,
question.
yes. Hi.
Hi, I'm sorry. My name is Maura. I go to Innovation. I was wondering, what are some important factors that could be included in the video?
Um,
Or
we
are
have,
you a student?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
a
great.
I'm a sophomore.
Oh,
great.
great.
Should I go back to the questions?
Well, the
Because
questions, and I mean, the most important thing, I don't know when you joined us more, but the most important thing is to make the connection between your project and climate change. So, you know, how does your project impact a cause or impact of climate change? And then thinking about, you can go back to the questions real quick if you
right.
want.
Yeah, so you really just want to reflect on like the importance of, you know, taking action and what steps need to be made. Thinking about what you accomplished with your team, the challenges that you experienced, and how you overcame those challenges, and how what your actions within your project are combating climate change. So that's the main thing that we look for. But we do also look for creativity and things like that, which later on when I go over the rubric, I'll point that out to you a little bit more. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so submission form. So once your video's ready and you're ready to submit everything, these are all the things that you need to provide us when you're going through your submission process. So again, we have the teacher, the club advisor, email, all these different things. I don't think I need to go through every single one, but one thing I want to point out is that if there are two teachers that are working on the project, you are not required to put both. You only have to put one teacher that's working on the project. But yeah, providing your social media is great. You know, local news outlets and things like that, because we really do want to celebrate you know, the submissions as well. And providing all that is really helpful for us. And uploading a list of the team members, that's really important, making sure that you have the name, the grade, the student, parent email addresses, and providing, you know, this information. We have a link to the team roster template. So that's necessary when you have your submission. It's very important.
And just a note about the team members, it should be 15 or less for the project. It should really be the students that were actively involved in whatever the project was.
So the next part, this is the written component of the submission form. So in addition to the actual video, we really want to see the team's reflections. So should be coming from, I know other teachers have provided these questions to the students before actually putting it into submission process and actually making it an assignment to have like students kind of reflect on that before instead of having to do it on the spot, making it part of the lesson. So the project rationale is first. So it's maximum of 350 words, right? So describing your project, explaining how it addresses the cause or impact of climate change, and making sure that you're providing science-based evidence. And supporting the connection between the project and climate change. So we really are looking for the science behind that and not like the loose connections. We want to make sure that it's really scientific and well thought out, and that students are really understanding the connections that they're making with their project and the solutions for and effects of climate change. For the team reflections, the maximum is 500 words. So this portion is just asking for the team to reflect about what they learned in their project. So, you know, did this increase their knowledge of climate change? What are the challenges that they encountered and how did they address them? And in hindsight, and this is a really great thing to like look back on, what are some things that they would have done differently in the project now that they're on the other side, and why? And lastly, we asked to upload project pictures. Up to 5 would be great. We really want to showcase them even more, so it's great to provide that.
Yes, it's hard to advertise the it's hard not advertise, but to like in
Promote.
press releases and stuff like that we send out, like it's hard to take screen captures for the video that are high quality. So this lets us use those pictures. So 1 or up to 5 would be great. The other thing to mention is don't stress out over the word counts. The target is 350 or 500, but if it's, 375 or, or 520, don't have the student stress over that. That's fine. It's not going to cut it off.
Okay. So video is the next part of the video submission form. And also when we do send this out, there is a link, right? So this is a link to the submission form to help you out. So the digital story title, 10-word limit. We talked about it earlier. The target is 3 minutes. You are able to put it over 3 minutes, but again, 3 minutes is a sweet spot, and we really encourage, less is more. So make sure that you provide the signed release of the student consent form and photo release. And for the video upload, the video file can be uploaded into the submission form or as a link to the video can be provided. So if you upload it on YouTube and you provide the YouTube link, that's okay. So the link must allow the file to be downloaded by anyone. So, if you have it in a Google Drive and you're sharing it as a Google Drive, you have to make sure that we are able to access that. So make sure that you share like anyone who has a link is able to open the file. So this, sorry, go ahead, Renee.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the student, like completing the submission form, needs to sign into the Google account to upload the video. So Google accounts are free. So one can be easily made for just completing the video upload.
And I was just going to say, if the students are 18 or over, they don't need the parents to sign the consent form. It's just for students under 18.
Okay, so this is the rubric that we actually use to score each of the submissions. So the first aspect of the rubric is based off of the storytelling elements. So based off of the criteria here, we have the creative story elements. As a former teacher, I never like to go down below. I always like to focus on what are the highest points because this is where we want to be. So we want to think about is this digital story creative? Is it engaging the audience and effectively with a clear purpose, right? Do we completely understand what the story is saying? What was the purpose? What is being accomplished? All of those things. I would, we don't want to leave the audience with too many questions. So the core science ideas, the digital story clearly addresses the relationship between human impact and climate change. The cause and effect are accurately described and supported by evidence. And then the project solutions. Did the digital story demonstrate innovative, practical, and easily implementable solutions? Do you have any, does anybody have any questions about that? Awesome. And then the next portion is the written component. So this is what we just went over, the project rationale. So is the project rationale clearly providing a detailed summary of the project and its connection to the climate change and connection to climate change using appropriate scientific evidence? So again, please make sure that there is scientific evidence in the rationale. And then the reflections, are they offering thoughtful reflections? Are they showing how their knowledge of impact of climate change has deepened? Pointing out obstacles that they face and how they tackle them, or specific examples of how they would have approached a project differently. So we totaled out of 100 points. Any questions? Great. That means I wrote a really good rubric. All right, so moving on to the challenge awards, Renee.
Sure. Okay. So just to reiterate, the submissions are due on April 10th by midnight. You'll be notified. The way that it works is we'll select three. There's a middle school category and a high school category. And this year we have two different sets of awards. One is the kind of general Student Climate Challenge Award, and one is the ACE Student Climate Challenge Award. So the ACE, that stands for Atlantic City Electric, they're the funder of the program. And so they wanted to, they decided this year to give extra funding to award grants to students in their service territory. So if any of you are in the ACE service territory, the chances of winning are a lot better for you because the pool of applicants will be smaller. The ACE territory is like South Jersey, and you can on our website, or even on here, you should be able to click on Atlantic City Electric service territory, and it'll tell you whether you're in it or not. But you don't have to tell us that on the submission. We'll know what category to put you in. So what will happen is that we'll review all the submissions between April 10th and early May, and then we'll notify everyone of the status of their application. So you'll either be considered a finalist, meaning in the top three, because we're awarding first, second, and third place awards, or you'll be notified that you haven't been made a finalist. So we don't actually award the first, second, and third places until the award ceremony. That will be the week of June 10th at the Drum Thwacket Foundation in Princeton. We're working with the First Lady's office, Tammy Murphy's office, to kind of nail down a date. But right now it looks like it'll be the week of June 10th. And the finalists are allowed to bring the student and one adult with them, plus the teacher. So if there were one or two teachers, for the project, both teachers will be invited. Each school actually can bring 3 people, school staff people, and then the students and an adult guest for each of the students. Does anybody have any questions on this? Is anybody here from South Jersey on there?
Oh, yay.
I
Julie.
didn't.
Yeah,
Julie.
Cape May Tech, so we're in Cape May County.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
wonderful.
Yeah, right. It's great. I mean, actually, this year the chances for everyone are better because there are 2 sets of awards, but in particular for ACE, since it's a smaller geographic entity. So I really encourage you to have your students apply, submit their project.
Right.
Any questions from anybody else?
I have a
Okay.
question.
Mhm.
Yes.
Do we have to provide links of like where we got information from? And if we do, how many, like what is the minimum amount of links?
You mean for like supporting your scientific work?
Yes.
I don't think we will count your citations, but I think it would really strengthen your rationale to provide them. I wouldn't say that we will require them, but I would say it really great research provides citations, so it would help you in that category.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And you don't, you don't have to cite a bunch of sources, but your primary sources, if you'd like.
Mhm. Okay,
Any
so
other-
now, I'm sorry. Somebody had another question? Laura?
No, I was just saying thank you.
Oh, no problem. Any other questions? Luis? Oh, you're muted. Hold on. I'm gonna try to unmute you. Luis, did you have a question? I can't hear you. You're still muted. There you go. Go
Okay,
ahead.
all right, yeah. Yeah, my question is about this, specific about the work cited. Because some of the students in the process of doing the research, finding rationale or some for the project, for the thing that they are discovering, they have some sites. So usually what I do with the students, they had to give me all the information, and I help them how to put in at the end of the presentation were cited. Yeah, I hear that you are now going to use a lot, so maybe just couple of those that will be okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's okay. I don't think we're
Right.
requiring us like a bibliography citation page or anything like that. But if you wanted to, like, say, quote something within the project rationale and like quoting a statistic, it may be kind of like an in-text citation, kind of like providing it within there. I know that's not like a science, like MLA is more like an English thing, but I know they have like footnotes, but I don't think they allow that within the Google form. So any way that you want to say, like, according to maybe, a journal article that they read, and then you can quote that and then kind of relate that to their writing and their
Okay.
project.
Okay, I got it.
Mhm. Awesome. Any other questions?
No for me. I'm okay.
Awesome. Great. All right. So just some really important links that can help you with everything with your project. We have the climate challenge quick start guide. It would give you all the breakdown of everything, but I think most of you guys are really far within your project. So the official rules, maybe you want to review that again, just in case, to make sure that, you are abiding by the rules of the climate challenge. You have the submission form, the team roster template that we talked about, the consent and student release form. So all of these links are within this slide, but also provided on the website. And then we have the Google Drive. So if you haven't taken a minute to kind of go into the resource Google Drive, that link is where you would find the graphic organizers to help them plan, their videos or anything like that. Maybe if you're using this within your classroom, there are some even just like infographic kind of pictures that can be provided to your students to think about while they're creating their project.
Can you just click on it? Would it work if you just clicked on it?
Let's see.
There's like, because there's something, a storyboarding,
Yes, I created a storybook. No, it's not working.
Oh, okay.
I can just do this though. I have to kind of get out of it and
Maybe stop sharing and then click on it and then share.
well, I have 3 screens, so I
Okay.
do have it. I'm just
Okay.
pulling up and then I'm gonna change. Which screen do you guys see? What are you seeing?
I'm seeing, we're seeing that now.
Okay,
The
so this
new-
is the drive. Yeah, so here I have different folders. We have the submission requirement forms, right? All the different things there. But in terms of the graphic organizers, I have it here. So we have different things like problem statement, like what's the problem? This would have been good for like when you started planning your projects. What are the different options and the different solutions? A flow chart, same thing, different ways of like providing it to your students, climate action plan, things like that, that maybe they wanted to kind of work through, cause, effect, solution. And then for the digital store, sorry, did you want
No,
me
I
to
was
go
just
back?
going to say those graphic organizers could help in terms of them developing the narrative for their video so that they're
Mhm.
focused on the, you know, that sequence.
Right. And here we had different implementations for like I guess organizations you could have worked with. I hope, you know, it was helpful. But the one thing, if you haven't started recording or like, you know, we have video editing software and all the links that can kind of help you in different tips. And then the graphic organizers, you know, wait, that wasn't, I don't know what that was. Did someone add that? That wasn't even me. Um, okay, so 1 second. Here's the storyboard. I think this is what I was mentioning before, like having the different frames of like what students want for the first shot, and then describing what's the title of the frame and describing the scene, maybe having some kind of like what kind of dialogue do you want your students to have and what they want to say. So I put 3 or 4 different kind of versions of it, so that you could print them out and just give them to the students to kind of plan out and map out their work. Okay, now to get back to presentation mode. Okay, back. Alrighty. So did anybody have any questions about the links or anything that we provided? Because we're about to wrap it up, but we wanted to kind of share a couple of opportunities that we have available for educators. So if you are a wonderful teacher teaching climate change education, you have some wonderful lessons. We are looking for teachers from K through 5. I know most of you guys are probably middle school and high school teachers, but if you have teacher friends, I'm sure this will be a great way to kind of connect it, but we're looking, and some people are certified K through 12. So that's also, that could still apply to you. So what this is we want teachers, we are recruiting teachers to join the New Jersey Climate Teacher Institute. We have a grant that we are working with the New Jersey Department of Education, where we're creating exemplar lesson plans to put on the New Jersey Climate Education Hub. So we're looking specifically for K through 12 educators, and we're focusing on integrating climate change education into curriculum. And the people that we're looking for are specializing in ELA, math, social studies, visual performing arts, language arts, and bilingual bicultural certification. And the reason why we're doing that is because we know that science, you know, understands climate change very well, but a lot of the content areas that are not science-based are kind of struggling on how to incorporate and integrate climate change education into their classroom. So we are working with the DOE and Rutgers to provide these exemplar lesson plans for New Jersey teachers. So they will train you, so you will participate in training. It will be virtual online, and you will be developing 3 lesson plan units, and you will get professional development credits and $1,000 honorarium, a certificate of completion. So if you are interested, this is the QR code where you can learn more about it. There's a whole kind of document that you can read through and understanding like the scope and the deadlines and things like that. Or you can click on this when you get the slide deck. Any questions about this particularly?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's only for K to 5?
Yes, at this point,
Okay.
yes. Okay.
But
And
please share it with your colleagues.
yes.
And the lessons are intended to be like interdisciplinary, so they're gonna kind of address some of the science standards, but the focus is kind of integrating it into across the different content areas.
Okay, awesome. All right, and then another great opportunity that we have is if you missed our adapting to Open Syed professional development that we had, we are going to have some webinars to share how teachers can incorporate New Jersey specific data sets into their classroom. So the first webinar is particularly if your district is using Open Syed curriculum, and then basically we will talk about how to incorporate the data sets. We have supplemental lessons and how that can be implemented into the lesson plans of Open Syed Unit 7.6, which is kind of talking more about the human impacts and climate change and things like that. And then if you aren't a science teacher using Open Syed, you can then register for the cross-content areas and curricula. So this will be focusing more on math and science together, English and history, and visual performing arts and health and phys ed, and how to incorporate New Jersey data sets into climate change education instruction.
So essentially, the premise is that there's a wealth of data, New Jersey specific data that's out there that you could use to integrate into a social studies class or into a math class, where you're teaching whatever the topic is for that subject area, but using the climate data as examples for students to work with and analyze. So there's so many resources out there. So this is just going to kind of hit the surface of it. But the whole idea is like you can do what you're doing and just using the climate change information or data as opposed to data that might be in your curriculum now that's from California or wherever. You can be more specific and hit on the climate challenge standards as well as the content area standards.
Mm-hmm. And making it more applicable for students, like relatable, saying, oh, I know that place, I've been there, and understanding, you know, the impacts of climate change that is happening with the community around them. Okay. So if you're interested in that, you can use the QR code, or again, when you get the slide deck, you can register. So for any more information, this QR code will send you straight to the Climate Challenge website webpage. And anything that you are working on, it'd be great to have you guys tag us or follow us with the Climate Challenge. And yeah, so if you have any questions, you know,
Yeah,
hashtag.
Maybe stop
hashtag.
sharing your screen and we can just see if there's any final questions. Great, thanks.
And we did really well on time. Who's speaking? Sorry.
Yeah, this is Ms. Faison again. I just wanted to know if it's okay if the two separate groups that are coming from one school to participate in this competition, like it doesn't have to be one group to represent a school.
Correct. It doesn't have to be one group. You can submit two submissions from your school.
Okay.
Or three or four. There's no rules. There's no rules against more than one team from a school to be a finalist.
I have a question about that. Has to be one teacher? You mentioned only one teacher. Well, what about we have several teams and we are sharing the groups? Because I am working with Miss Praveen from my school, and I don't know how it's going to be.
So no, you can have multiple teachers working with the students. We just said that you don't have to list all of them on the submission form. Are you saying that like 3 teachers are working?
No, just two, me and
yeah, right.
colleague.
So right, that's fine. But just for the purposes of the submission form, there was just one contact.
Okay.
But if your submission is a finalist, then, you know, obviously both teachers that were involved in it would be invited to the award ceremony and recognized.
All right. Okay, thank you.
we're trying to shorten the application. And if your teacher, if you registered, if both the teachers are registered, they'll be in our registration database. Have all of the teachers here registered on the website?
Yes, I did when the information came first, I registered.
Okay,
And
great.
Yeah, I did it too. I did.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay,
we both are working together.
great,
Mhm.
great. Any other questions? Well, we're here to answer your questions. Rosalie, we probably should add to the last slide, like our email addresses, just in
Right.
case, or you can also email the New Jersey Climate Challenge.
Right. I can also put my email in the chat box
Yeah.
if you want to email me directly. Okay.
I had a
Okay, well,
question.
thank you so much
Oh,
for
wait,
I have
joining.
last
wait,
question. Last question.
hold
Great.
on. And
Yeah.
Maura had a question as well. Go ahead.
Yeah, about tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think we have another meeting. You have another meeting 3:30 or something like that. At the same
It's on Thursday,
on Thursday,
and
yeah.
it's the same meeting. We're just trying to provide it for the different times for people's schedules.
Okay, all right.
So
Because I might enter if I have time, if I some extra question or more questions, because this is some information that came so much, so I had to digest first of all and go speak with my students, what I think about it, and then I might come with new questions. If it's possible, I can come back the next time.
Yeah, that would be
yeah,
great. And
and
your students
also
can
that's
come.
what I was gonna
Okay,
say.
perfect.
Since
Yeah.
it's at 3:30, perhaps I know some teachers have like zoomed us in, and I put it on the screen and have the students listen in on everything.
Yes.
All right, okay, that would be great. Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
One question I have.
Yeah. Mhm.
Are you sharing this slides that you have?
Presentation,
Yes.
man.
Okay.
Yeah, so the slide deck will be shared with you, and the recording will also be on the website if you need to watch it again.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
Okay. Maura, did you have a question?
Yes. What are some things that make us like stand out? Because I know for my group where I'm trying to get in contact with like the excuse me, with the local weather news, and I also know that my teacher works with NASA. My teacher is actually Dr. Faison, so the one that's
Oh,
here.
very nice.
So I was actually what are some things that could help us stand out?
I would say the creativity of the video is one thing, and I guess just also the type of project that you do. And again, it's up to you, and I guess I would say what you're passionate about, and that being translated through the video is really important. The work that you guys are doing and showing that it's really important and that you really learned from it and that you're able to creatively present that to us. I think that will make you really stand out.
Yeah, that and the other thing that stood out in some of the previous winners is that they did reach out to experts in their community and they talked about that. Like in one, they had like a farmer, they were doing a buy local campaign and they had a farmer come and talk to them about farming, or the one of the projects was a tree planting project and they worked with the Shade Tree Commission in their town, and they had and they actually wound up getting funding from the Shade Tree Commission to help them do the project. So any kind of outreach or connections that you made with people outside your school is something that if you did, I would highlight.
Mm-hmm. And other schools also went to other like younger grades to kind of teach about. I think one of the submissions last year was about fast fashion and having like lessons, and they were teaching younger students about fast fashion and how it affect the environment and ways that you can kind of avoid I guess being wasteful with your clothing and upscaling your clothing. And I think that was really nice too, having, like high school students going down to like elementary school students and educating them. I think that was also great.
Okay, thank you. That really helps.
No problem.
All right, well, thank you all so much. And we are so excited to review all your submissions. It's always a pleasure looking at all the great things that the students are doing and meeting the teachers that are so committed to their students that they kind of take on this project on top of everything else. So we really appreciate that.
And thank you so much, everyone. It was great meeting you all.
Yes, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
Have a good night. Bye-bye.